That's a beautiful looking brisket. What a great way to start a Sunday morning, ain't it? Check that out. Wow, that looks very, very nice. Today we're gonna cook us a real Texas brisket. Bought in Texas. I'm a real Texan, and we're gonna cook it on a real Texas-made, Texas-built, offset stick burners. I live in South Texas where mesquite is prevalent. I love post oak just as much, so we're gonna use a little bit of blend. That's a real Texas flavor in deep South Texas where I'm from. We're gonna trim this up. We're gonna season it with some salt and pepper, the real traditional Texas-style brisket rub. We're gonna put it on our Lone Star grills outside and smoke it up. It'll be done later this evening. We'll show you how it looks like when it's done. We're gonna be cooking this brisket at about 250 to 275 degrees. We're gonna kind of try to cruise there all day today till the brisket gets wrapped and done. We're gonna probe it. Their generally accepted rule is when they're done at about 203. That's about an average temperature, but really the real test is probe tender. When the probe goes in there like butter, it's done. Now the brisket we're cooking today is a prime brisket. Most of your upper end restaurants here in Texas nowadays cook prime briskets, or at least upper end choice. So that's what we're gonna cook today. Let's get it trimmed up, let's get fired up, and let's get to smoking. This is gonna be something similar to what most barbecue restaurants do here in Texas. You wanna have some nice cold meat and a very sharp knife. You do want a nice sharp tip. You generally want about a 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch of fat on the bottom. I personally like to have about a 1/8. A little bit less is a little bit better in my case. 1/4 inch is kind of the accepted thing as the norm in Texas. You can stick your hand up under the brisket and kind of raise it up like that. That lets your knife get right to that one little section of fat that you want to get. And you don't have to completely trim everything. You don't have to get all the membrane and all the silver skin off for a long smoke. Most of this stuff will render out. The rub, the salt in the rub will pretty much melt that membrane. All right, I'm gonna turn this around. One of the things that most of your Texas restaurants, and restaurants in general, I think throughout the country now, they get this thing off right here. You just kind of want to smooth your brisket out. You want a nice, somewhat of an aerodynamic type shape. Sometimes these briskets have a little bit of this weird brown looking meat. It's not really bad, there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't like it. I like to get rid of that. I like nice fresh looking meat on my briskets. And a lot of the briskets have right here a big thick fat line. I'm going to trim that off as well right there. And I'm going to square up the side here, the bottom. Nice sharp knife really helps, folks. So that fat line needs to go. It's not a good pleasant eating experience if you leave it in there. All right, so that looks better. I like to round the edges off just a little bit like that. That helps when you're slicing across the grain here and your edges don't crumble. This big fat point here has a little excess fat, so we're going to get rid of some of this excess fat right here and get rid of a little bit of this fat right here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to trim some of this fat off the bottom side here as well. Now this part right here is like super thin. It's gonna really basically be toast by the time the rest of the brisket's gonna get cooked. So I'm gonna round this off just a little bit because it's gonna toast off anyway. And I'm gonna round this edge off just a little bit. What I like to do is make a nice straight cut right there at the end. That lets me know how my grain is when I'm ready to slice at the end. All right, we got most of this fat off. There's a little bit here. Come on, baby doll. That's pretty much all we're doing to this side of the brisket. I'm gonna flip this over. I'm gonna round this edge off just a little bit over here too. And these trimmings don't go to waste, trust me folks. We grind these up and make some amazing hamburgers. Just the right amount of fat ratio. I'm gonna flip this over. We're gonna look at the bottom side here. So we're gonna trim this off right here. Try to round that off, make it nice and smooth. Let's trim this a little bit more. Now this is a little tall here, so I'm going to smooth this out here. Again, like I said, this is a minimal trim, and so I'm going to shave that. I'm going to shave this fat a little bit more. Like I said, I usually like about 1/8 of an inch, more or less. That's kind of what I find to be the happy medium in my case. And let's see, we got a little more fat here. Let's go ahead and trim this down just a little bit more right here. All right, I think we're pretty good there on that side. That looks good. I'm gonna flip this around. All right, I'm gonna smooth this out just a little bit more. That's pretty much it, folks. That brisket is ready to go to the smoker. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use some salt and pepper with just a hint of garlic in there. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of mustard on here. That's very normal, very traditional in Texas. Now this is my own blend, by the way. All right, I'm gonna do the bottom first. Now, normally here in Texas, most of your restaurants are gonna cook fat side up from start to finish. Me personally, I like to start meat side up for a little while and get some nice smoke flavor on the meat as well. Then I'm gonna flip it at some point once I like the color on the meat a little bit, and I'm gonna start getting my bark set on the fat side up as well. Fat side up is the normal, traditional way to cook Texas style brisket. So we're gonna put a little bit of this on here. Don't forget to get the sides also. And you can pretty much be aggressive with your salt and pepper on here, because a lot of that is going to melt off with the fat. I'm going to flip it over and do the other side now. All right, here we go. I like to do the sides first, personally. That way it doesn't fall off when you're doing the top. Get a nice even coat. You want to hold your shaker up about this high and get a nice even coat. Generally, it's somewhere around 50-50 salt and pepper. I like to run a little more pepper myself, so this is a 60-40. We're going to get it nicely seasoned up like this. Now that's a beautiful, real Texas brisket, seasoned up with salt, pepper, and just a hint of garlic. We're ready to go to the smoker. Let's get fired up. It's about time for one little spritz. So at about the hour mark, I like to come in here and moisten the brisket a little bit. Just make sure that it stays nice and soft on the top. Number one. Number two, it also helps the smoke stick to the meat. So you get a little bit more of that smoke flavor. Remember, we're running a good clean fire. A good quick spray is all it takes. I like to use this little pump sprayer. This makes it quick. You can get the door open, the brisket sprayed, and get done and close the lid quick. Remember, if you're looking, you're not cooking, so you want to do it quick and close the lid quick as well. All right, my barbecue loving friends, it's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's time for one more spritz, and while I've got the pit open, I'm going to go ahead and flip and rotate my brisket. Now, one of the things that I like to do is pretty much all your Texas brisket houses will cook their brisket fat side up. I start mine fat side down, and then I flip it over after the first 2 hours approximately. And I do that mainly because I want to get that rub to stick to the meat on top. And number one. Number two, it also gives it that little extra smoke, that little extra smoke ring and smoke flavor on the brisket. And I like to put a piece of butcher paper when I do flip it over. Mainly I started doing that because the grates on this particular smoker are really rough, and they will tear up the rub, they'll tear up the foil, they'll tear up anything you lay on there. That's the reason I started to do that. What I figured out was also that this really helps keep flavor and moisture on the meat side of the brisket while it's sitting in the smoker. So we've got it spread. Let's add a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and close it back up. You notice that I rotated it also 180 degrees and I flipped it. To me, that helps get nice, even cooking from both sides of the pit and finish out with the point facing towards the heat. All right, y'all stay tuned. We'll be back here in a little while. All right, it's been another hour, so we're gonna give this brisket a little looky. Let's see what it looks like. And we're gonna spritz it at least one more time. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Man, it doesn't even look like it needs a spritz, but we're gonna do it anyway since we got the door open. Sometimes these briskets will get a little bit of liquid right here in the corner. Sometimes some restaurants you'll see them put a little bit of foil here on the tip to keep it from burning. This one's not burning. It's looking really good on both sides all the way around. It's getting some of that really pretty mahogany color. Looking gorgeous. We're gonna go ahead and shove it back in. Call it good for now. Next time that we get together on this, it's gonna be getting wrapped inside the kitchen. We're gonna take it inside, wrap it in butcher paper, and then bring it back out here and let it finish cooking. One thing I do want to do while we're out here is check the internal temperature. We're looking at 164 degrees. I'd say it's about time to wrap. I'm going to check it in a different spot. Whew, yeah, that says 188. That's definitely time to wrap. But it's only 156 on the point side. So when we come back, we're going to go ahead and wrap it in butcher paper in just a little bit. And then we're going to rotate the brisket 180 degrees again. Finish it out with a point facing towards the heat. All right, we'll be back in just a little bit. We usually like to spritz the paper a little bit. It kind of softens it up, makes it a little bit easier to fold. It also helps keep the brisket from sticking to the paper. But whatever little juice is in this paper, we're going to use here today. Another thing you can do, you can put a little extra rub right before you wrap. You can put some on the paper right before you lay your brisket down. Sometimes it does add a little extra good flavor to the au jus, if you have any au jus when you're done. All right, we're fat side up. We're going to fold this over. And we're going to flip it over one time. You want to have it nice and tight so that all that delicious goodness stays in there. All right, now we're fat side down, right there, nice and tight. Let's fold this a little bit more. All right, we're going to fold that a little bit more. Okay, now we're back to fat side up, and that's the way we want to finish. We want to finish fat side up. So we're going to go ahead and fold this paper over this way. And there we go. It acts as an extra little layer of protection. And that's how you wrap Texas style brisket on butcher paper. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and insert a probe into my brisket. I'm going to put 2 of them in there. Really, I normally just run 1, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and run 2 today, just so that you guys can get a little bit better visual. And I normally will run 1 right in the center in this direction. And just for the sake of demo, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and run a second one right over here. And that's pretty much it. You don't want to get it too deep. You want to get it right about the middle of the brisket there. Same thing here, right around the middle. And we're just going to close it up. And I can see here we're in the high 160s on one end and 163 on the other. It's really kind of right where it needs to be at wrap time. We're going to let it ride. We've been maintaining right at 275-ish, somewhere around 275. It's lower right now because I had the lid open, but it's been running right around 275 since I wrapped it. We'll be back in a little while. We'll give it a couple hours. All we got to do at this point in time is just kind of keep the logs fed into the firebox and try to maintain our temperature. Like I said, we're going to try to maintain about 275 till the brisket is done. We're going to be looking for somewhere between 202 204 degrees. They say the 203 is the magic number, but at the end of the day, really it's about feel and how it feels with the probe when you probe it with the meat thermometer. So we'll be back in a couple hours to let you guys know where we're at. All right, folks, it's exactly 12 hours and about 5 minutes. That brisket is done. We're sitting at 199 over here. It was at 200, and on one of them a while ago, the fire's already kind of dwindling, so it started to come down. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it, put it in the Cambro. We've been cruising right at 275 all day long, and so we're gonna put it in the Cambro, give it a nice long rest, and we'll be back to slice it in a little while. Man, this is looking good. Wow, this brisket looks really, really nice. Check that out, folks. Oh yeah, that looks very nice. If you remember yesterday, in the earlier part of the video yesterday, this brisket actually took up the whole cutting board. One of the things that happens when you cook brisket is that it shrinks. They lose anywhere from 35 to 45% in size between trimming and shrinkage while you're cooking. I'm gonna put a little bit of yumminess on here. Oh yeah, baby. That adds flavor, just an FYI. Right down the middle here. Look at that. That looks really nice, folks. That's a beautiful looking brisket. What a great way to start a Sunday morning, ain't it? Check that out. Wow. So here we go. Let's just keep sliding. This one feels perfect, actually. Just straighten out my knife. That's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good to me. That's looking very nice. Maybe I need to sharpen my knife a little bit. How's that for a brisket? Perfect bend test. Check that out. My wife's doing the social over here on the phone, so I'm gonna show her. How's that for a perfect bend test, my friends? Beautiful way to start a Sunday morning, ain't it? Check this out. Yep, perfection. Really, really comes right apart. And since I'm playing around, I might as well take a bite, right? Look how moist that slice is right there. Just super, super moist. And I know the big thing here lately is to use beef tallow on their briskets when they wrap them. A lot of guys are doing that and having great results, and some of them are even calling it a game changer. But you can see this one here. I mean, it's super, super moist. The smoke that you use to barbecue your brisket or to smoke it is part of your flavor profile. I can taste just a very mild hint of mesquite there. The rest of it is all oak. It just really tastes nice and smoky, but without being bitter. Just a really nice, great all-around flavor. Friends, this is a real Texas brisket cooked by a real Texan, cooked on a real Texas smoker, offset stick burner. There's so many videos out there throughout social media and YouTube about Texas style. Well, this is a real Texas brisket cooked by a real Texan. It tastes fantastic. You can see the bark is just absolutely beautiful, fantastic. Looks amazing. Just a really well cooked, perfectly cooked, super moist, super juicy brisket. I mean, look at that. Folks, it just doesn't get much better than that. Really doesn't. I hope you folks enjoyed this video. And I hope that I've inspired you to go out and cook real Texas brisket. If you're not from Texas, then we can go ahead and cook it Texas style. If you need a little help learning the how-to, we have our brisket masterclass on sale, and it is a Texas brisket that we're going to show you how to cook on different types of cookers, a Weber, pit barrel, a drum, pellet grill. It doesn't matter what you cook on, we're going to walk you through the whole process and show you how it's done the way we do it here in Texas. So if you like this video and if you got a lot of value out of it, go ahead and like it. Comment, tell us below what your best brisket tasted like or what you like to use when you season your brisket. Don't forget to ring that bell so you don't miss any videos from Arnie Tech. We're gonna go ahead and continue to cook and bring you more great cooking videos, hoping to inspire you to become a great barbecue person yourself. All right, don't forget folks, keep the smoke light and make it work. Boom! Brisket really does taste good, huh? I love it. Oh, Good. Time. Yeah, that's good.